Hello, everybody, and we are live on this fireside chat. Interestingly enough, I told my wife we were having a fireside chat, and she said, "Why do you call it a fireside chat? There's no fire." So I'm thinking about maybe getting a little fire in the background here. Our idea of this session is to essentially drop as much value as possible and interview experts who we feel can drop a ton of value and make your time worthwhile on this jam session. So today we've got Elizabeth joining us from Tinuiti. And Elizabeth, if you don't mind sharing your background, that would be awesome.
Sure thing. So my name is Elizabeth Marshallton. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Marketplace Services at Tinuiti, which is a long way of saying I work on a lot of the new stuff, and particularly the Walmart capabilities that we're building out. And I've been in the industry probably 14 years now. As of June, I originally started thinking it was called pay-per-click marketing, and it is not.
Awesome. Thanks for joining today. And we've got Gareth from Excelco. I know you were a little delayed, but really just your background quickly. The idea is we're going to be going through a 45-minute session here and dropping as much knowledge as we possibly can so that people walk away with some tangible stuff from this conversation.
Yeah, great. So Gareth Cummings, I'm the CTO of Excelco. Excelco is an e-commerce specialist company. We focus in customer support, pricing, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, excited to be here today and I'll talk a little bit more about Walmart and some other topics.
Awesome. So let's just get started. This is not about Amazon for the first time ever, right? This is about Walmart. I feel like not a lot of people talk about Walmart in general, but maybe we can just talk about some of the high-level things, Elizabeth, that you're seeing as you're working on some of the newer capabilities with Walmart. Why don't we start there, and we'll just make our way around the table.
Sounds good. And to that point, the number one thing I think I see is that almost confusion between Amazon and Walmart. So we think because, and to be fair, Walmart's huge, 4,700 stores, technically worldwide, has a larger revenue stream than Amazon. But when it comes to e-commerce and when it comes to, Amazon was a digital first company and Walmart is stores first, we have that disconnect. So we got a lot of folks that are confused on what selling on means, the difference between third party, being a vendor, being in the store, and what you can and can't do. So I did see a lot of one of our earlier questions kind of revolve around some of the nuances between the two.
Yeah, so why don't we get into it? I'll start off with the nuance, right? There's about over 3 million sellers on Amazon. Last numbers I've checked, there was about 50,000 merchants selling on Walmart. So it's a lot less saturated. Anything, at least you, Elizabeth, want to share there, or even Gareth?
So we're seeing I think, and this is a Walmart stat, about 92% of those listings on Walmart.com are actually from the third party. So the .com on the Walmart side is just kind of tip of the iceberg right now. So if you are in the marketplace, technically speaking, there's a lot more room than say 3 million on Amazon.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the growth as well, right? I mean, if you look at 2019, it was about 30,000 sellers on Walmart, give or take.
How many? 30,000, right?
30,000, right? So that's grown to about 50,000 now. But the numbers are saying about 15,000 in the kind of first 6 or 7 months of this year. So they're really accelerating that growth, right? Before, Walmart was reasonably exclusive in terms of the sellers they would take on board. They were very selective, right? There was Amazon make it easy. You can get onto Amazon quickly. I think when looking at some of the numbers, it was about 300,000 new sellers in 2017 alone on Amazon. So they make it very easy, very streamlined. Walmart traditionally have made it a little bit more difficult, right? You have to meet certain criteria. They want you to have certain sales volume. That they're have been selective in terms of what goods you sell. So it's interesting to see Walmart open that up more, right? I mean, Amazon's success, has been driven, quite a lot by third-party sellers, right? That's a big part of what they do. About 50%, 55% of their sales are from third-party sellers, right? And that's how they're the everything store, right? Because the third-party sellers, fill all those gaps, right, of products that they don't stock, and that's been a key thing from Amazon from day one. So it's really interesting to Walmart to see Walmart open it up. I know we're going to talk a little bit later about maybe some of the Shopify partnerships and stuff like that, but it's a really interesting dynamic because, I mean, Walmart is such a huge name in the US and Canada, of course, right, in terms of presence and I think in particular because of COVID and with acceleration in terms of in particular online groceries and stuff, people buying through that, I think there's real opportunity for Walmart to kind of really accelerate their growth in this space. In fact, I saw some numbers that the 74% growth in Q1 in e-commerce. So that's massive, right? That's, we talk about growth, that's just off the charts,
Yeah, I think a lot of that is due to just the shift of offline to online given the pandemic. So as we're engaging here, we did launch a poll. It's important to know, are people currently selling on Walmart today? If you are, please say yes. If you're not, you can of course say no. I would love to understand why you are or why you aren't selling on Walmart. I think that's going to be super helpful. And Yared, I think you bring up a really interesting point. So people associate Walmart with being maybe millennials. That's why they bought Jet, right? They bought Jet.com and quickly sunsetted Jet, but they bought Jet for a specific reason. I think that was to get to the millennials, and I think that didn't work out quite so well. And I think this relationship now that they just built with Shopify opens up that door to get those D2C brands that weren't willing to sell on their platform and give them a layup to or an alley-oop to start selling onto Walmart because they are quote unquote pickier than Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Shopify, that's really interesting, that partnership, right? Because I mean, Shopify obviously have been grown huge amounts in the last 2-3 years, in particular the last 6 months again because of COVID, right? I mean, the amount of people trying to get online. Shopify is kind of leading the pack there in terms of enabling companies to get to web stores. And now the integration they've built is really interesting. It's going to allow third-party sellers or online sellers to essentially sync their products directly into Walmart, right? So they're kind of removing that friction, making it very easy for you to kind of list. And I think, I mean, I can really see that really having a big impact in terms of sellers on Walmart. And I think it's it'd be interesting to hear some people on the webinar in terms of if they sell or not, and if they don't, why not? Because it is a kind of it's a less competitive landscape than Amazon, right? It's Amazon, obviously you've got the buy box, you've got huge competition. It's just a really, really competitive space, whereas Walmart is a little bit more of a, I suppose, greenfield as such, right, in terms of opportunity for sellers to get on there and start selling their goods.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, Elizabeth?
As I say, Shopify, they've already hit that 1,200 additional sellers that they had alluded to in a press release earlier this year. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is expectation setting, right? So yeah, there's a lot of greenfield. Yeah, there's a lot of space. But also, if I think about Amazon in 2014, when they started to launch like really into the advertising space and like how long it's taken them to put together the right customer support, the right education, the right, heck, even, forums on like if you just even go on like Reddit, for example, right now, and you try to look for like Walmart seller forums, there's a couple, but it's not nearly as extensive as it's been developed over the last few years for help with selling on Amazon. So I would just say like set that expectation of, we're all in the same boat. It's new. Everybody's learning. And I know it's frustrating because you look at just the size of what should be available or like the volume. And it's frustrating because you're like, why aren't we there now? Why isn't this faster? And then I just remind folks, retailer first, right? 4,700 stores first, moving into e-com versus starting on .com.
Yeah. I would say like one of the things I love about Walmart, Amazon stopped doing any product feeds, I think December 2019, I think. And one of the things I love about Walmart is that essentially even included in the referral fee, the commission fee that they take, they are actually doing the advertising for you on Google. And they certainly have a lot more clout and probably aren't managing that to get the highest return on ad spend possible. But that's one of the things that I love about Walmart doing that for me. Elizabeth, I know you have some experience on the advertising side. Anything to share on that?
It's great, obviously. So it reminds me a little bit of like what Etsy was doing for their sellers in the beginning as well. So Etsy was doing the Google Shopping or product listing ads, as they were called at the time, and then they were also doing the free feed, right? So they were uploading and getting the entire catalog within Etsy on there. And when Google moved to paid, Etsy paid the bill through that Q4 that year because they saw how crucial it was to have that traffic. So having someone like having Walmart partner in a sense with you, even if you don't necessarily know it or feel it, you do in the long term. It's an investment on Walmart's part. That's great.
And I would say I just wanted to second that. I think for me it's important. Like we do our own PPC, we do the product feed we're actually on Shopify as well, and then you've got Walmart as well. So when people are searching something, we're taking up a lot more real estate space on Google. And for me, I look at e-commerce and I say this time and time again, that it's like playing Monopoly. You want to be on every piece of the board to win, and I want to own as much real estate as I possibly can. So except for Park Ave, it's really expensive.
I was gonna say some retailers are starting to sell that space. So within their own product listings, within their social, there's a few larger retailers out there, and Walmart's doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of that, in terms of the pay, and there's a lot of obviously going on in the market at the moment. Like you've Google Shopping now gone back to free listings back in April. They announced it in the US, right? So they're making some moves back in terms of kind of opening that space up again, right? But I think you make a very good point in terms of you have to be spread across these. It's getting a more it's I mean, Amazon are still the most dominant marketplace, but it's becoming a more diverse marketplace to sell on, right? You've got Walmart, you've got Facebook coming in now, but Facebook Shop, you've got Google Shopping opening up in terms of free listings, obviously Shopify. You need to be across those channels, right? I kind of, I believe you must be selling across multiple channels to kind of ensure that you're getting the sales you deserve and need, So I think it's interesting to note all the different kind of moves that are happening at the moment.
So why don't we move into talking about Walmart Plus? Elizabeth, I know you're probably pretty familiar with the program. If you want to share with those that don't know Walmart Plus, I think that would be a good place to start.
So familiar, but not necessarily like engaged. So it's I think it lends into like the different sections at Walmart. Not all are necessarily all. It's a little bit harder to navigate, I would say, in terms of you've got Plus, you've got fulfillment services, you've got advertising, and then within that you've got media group, and then you've got seller, and you got marketplace. So Plus is interesting to me in that it is known but not known in some ways. So membership. So you assume that there's going to be an average higher household income associated with that. So kind of taking that page out of the Amazon Prime playbook, as well as Target and their Shipt relationship. I think it's going to be really interesting is if how much they lean into their unique capabilities that they can offer, like gas or savings on grocery trips more than anything else.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know we had mentioned that Walmart's bigger than Amazon. I think if you subtract out grocery and then you add in because like Amazon doesn't take their revenue, they report it on a net basis. So they back out the marketplace sellers' revenue if it is a 3P relationship. And so actually, if you back that back in, actually Amazon's quite larger from a retail perspective when you minus out groceries on Walmart. I think that's a good, interesting thing to think about as we're progressing the conversation.
Yeah,
Thoughts there?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that Walmart Plus, Amazon Prime has been such a big thing for Amazon, right? Even we know in terms of how Prime is so important when you're a seller, in terms of again getting back, winning the buy box, getting position, all that type of stuff. But like it's interesting in terms of Walmart. Amazon have tried to add more parts to the Prime membership in terms of video content and stuff. How successful they are, I'm not sure, but Walmart I think has bigger opportunities in terms of, as you mentioned already, in terms of the groceries, in terms of the gas. Even I think I was reading something about branded credit cards. So you would feel that Walmart can really have some impact there, right? There's I think there's some customer loyalty or brand loyalty there with Walmart, right, which you think they could capitalize on, right? So it'd be interesting to see how that materializes over the next period of time.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. And I'm just reading the chat where people are saying, hey, like we just wanted to go and list directly on the channel itself. And I think that's important to understand and think through. Like when you're spraying and praying and taking content that's on your Shopify store, it's unique content to you, and you just post it to Walmart, you're creating duplicate content. And that duplicate content makes Google confused and it hurts your ranking when you're actually ranking on SEO. So what we do, because prior to Skubana, my life consisted of running a D2C company where we manufacture and sell home appliance parts direct to consumer. We're on Shopify. We create unique content directly in Walmart's portal. And so I just wanted to clarify that, like, I don't believe in just taking a tool and just spraying and praying and adding that content directly to the channel. I don't know if you guys have anything to add about like when you're creating solid listings on Walmart, anything else to take note of?
Yeah, don't copy and paste from Amazon directly. So one thing I would note in particular I've noticed is Amazon product titles tend to be pretty long, right? So you will often you'll put in size, you'll put in color variation if you can, you'll put in maybe even a use case, right? So like, excuse me, like vitamins, supplements, keto, paleo, like the audience that might be with it. On Walmart, I've noticed that tends to be too much. So because of the way that they're indexing and understanding what things are, we know that product title is really important, but it's more important to state what the product is and perhaps the category, and brand is not nearly as important in the product title, if that helps. So like taking advantage of those feature bullets, putting up together as many images as you can. And I would say probably the other thing is, handful of reviews. You don't have to have 45 reviews, but you do need the social proof.
Yeah. I think that the trust element is so important, right? Trust is just below that price, right? So you have to have that trust, right? So you have to have those reviews. If you don't have them in combination, people are going to be a little bit wary in terms of purchasing from you. And I think you make a good point in terms of each marketplace. It's slightly different. If you're selling off your own web store on Shopify as opposed to Amazon, as opposed to Walmart, you need to consider those differently. Like as Elizabeth said, so there's different rankings, different indexings. There's different things that are important on different marketplaces, and you really have to, you have to put the time and effort into each different kind of channel that you're selling on. That's really important.
And one other thing that I think might be helpful for the folks, because I'm reading the chat questions as they come by, is kind of understanding the difference in variation listings. So on Walmart, if you have a variation list, if you have your single product page and then you have, say, 12 different colors, right? And you have that page and it has all the 12 different variations, you can only advertise on right now that top variation, like hero variation that you've input, versus if you have, for example, a single page for each one of those variations. So that can exponentially create more work for you, right? So if you have 12 variations and you decide you want to do, or you want to try and do 12 different pages, that's 12 different pages of unique content you have to make versus a single page. You kind of have to balance that out against how much work are you putting in now and whether or not you have a tool to help you do that.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Okay, what else do we want to talk about with Walmart? I think one thing that comes to mind, Elizabeth, that you shared was title, right? Walmart looks really sort of smiles when you're creating a much more robust title, and a lot of it's indexed based on the title. And I think that's a stellar point to discuss, which is Walmart is definitely in the shadows of Amazon and like kind of following their footprint, but like Amazon's search rank used to really be focused on title. eBay is really, really focused on title, right? Which hasn't evolved for a very long time. It's funny, like eBay just came out with their earnings last night and they're like investing, et cetera, but they still don't allow you to have videos as images in eBay, which is crazy to me. So for Walmart, a lot of the indexing happens on this unique titles and making sure you're putting the right keywords that are indexing based on that. And I think the same thing for eBay.
Yeah. So what I would say is when you structure your product titles, the number one thing I recommend more than anything else is go to walmart.com and look at what other competitors are doing in the subcategory and at the category level to understand like length, how much information is in there, how important brand is. I mean, if you're a pretty brand name brand, you don't necessarily need it first in the title. You can either put it in. If you don't have a brand name that's pretty recognizable, focus on using that space on something else. But I have noticed that 3-sentence long product title that sometimes you can get away with on Amazon just doesn't do as well on Walmart. And part of it, I wonder, has to do with like, say, mobile experience, whether or not how many folks are on the app versus how many are on desktop versus mobile web. Yeah, sure. The Walmart app has probably had the most downloads this year. They're the winners, sure. But it's not as prevalent as, say, Amazon. So thinking about how not only like what's in that product title, but how it displays and how everyone else kind of has their stuff. And I would also take a look also at your category. So take a look at that left nav and look at those categories that are available, whether or not you need to include that category or are you essentially good? Because again, that piece of the store. So Walmart's going to, in their categories, mimic their stores a little bit because they don't want, they don't want you to be confused when you come in and you go to the store and you look up and you go, is it soda or is it pop? And, like they're going to try and make some continuity there. So you want to try and replicate that with your product pages.
Yeah. It's interesting on the category piece, right? Because I know Amazon have kind of moved towards it a little bit more in recent years, but like typically Amazon's very much based on the search, right? So it's it's your title, it's keywords, it's that's really, really important being found on Amazon. But again, as you say, right, Walmart's a little bit more about the categorization, so you need to make sure that that's done correct. And then, but I think some of the things that apply, you need to have, again, you always want to have good product images. You want your product look the best. Some of the basics, right? The reviews we mentioned already, some of those things still hold true, right, across the different markets.
Mm-hmm. And Garrett, so Excelco, you guys are focusing on customer support, right? Along with repricing. So I would imagine, are you supporting Walmart across both of those?
Absolutely, yes, indeed we are, and it's interesting you see. We've had some feedback before that providing customer support on the Walmart platform is a little more difficult, right? It's a little more challenging. Amazon have invested in quite a bit in Seller Central and tried. Yeah, well, yes, I'm being nice, right? But I mean that still has the problems. But I think Walmart are even a little bit further behind the curveball there, right? And that's, I mean, obviously I would say that coming from Excelco, right? But that's where a product like yourself can help in terms of customer support, right? Because the same things will happen in Walmart that will happen on Amazon, right? You can get suspended, you can get your products delisted. In particular, because Walmart have price guarantees, your pricing in Walmart is really, really important. A common problem we used to hear from our sellers is that you get delisted on your products will be delisted on Walmart, and you might even get notified, right? So you need to make sure that your price, the price guarantee is baked in.
So does Excelco allow you to reach price parity with Amazon and Walmart?
Yeah, exactly. So you can have your Amazon, your Walmart, your Shopify channels in, and you can set rules within the repricer.com tool. So basically, you're managing all that, and it just syncs automatically, right? So you don't have to worry about, am I going to dip down below the thresholds? You can set minimum price, maximum price. So you can build the price rules, so you're not going to be suspended, you're not going to be kicked. So obviously, we'll help you win buy box on Amazon, but in terms of Walmart or Shopify, you can ensure that you're staying within the bounds. So it really helps that problem. And then we have a lot of customers who use Walmart on our platform. So we probably have about in the region of 10 or 15% on repricer.com. But when it comes to eDesk, which is our customer support product, we have about 25% who are selling at Walmart. So it's quite high, and that's growing. We see that growth across our platform, right? So obviously Amazon and eBay, we always have a lot of those sellers, but Shopify, Walmart, they're growing. In the past 12 months, we see huge growth on our platform, right, in terms of sellers who are starting to sell on that platform.
I do want to drill down a little bit into pricing on Walmart versus Amazon. Will Excelco actually lower the price? If Amazon's price gets compressed, will you follow along and match that price?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can match that price, but you can also put a minimum threshold there, right? So you could say, you can sell this pen, right? And you say, look, minimum price on that pen is $5, right? So I'm not going to price below. So Amazon go below $5, we won't put your Walmart price below $5, right? So you can match and stay competitive, but you can also put your minimum thresholds, right? So there's no risk of you finding, hey, actually I dip below what I could afford, right, to sell for that product. And that's one of the key things within our repricer.com product. Historically, we were very focused on Amazon, and we still are, but we've moved a little bit towards kind of multi-channel, because that's the direction that the kind of market's going, right? So we're about price management across Walmart, eBay, Amazon, through your web stores, be it Shopify, Magento, they're all covered within our platform, and you can set the rules. So as I said, it's set, and you can ensure that you're staying competitive with Amazon, but you're not going to drop below what you want to sell at.
Yeah, I just want to address one of the questions that came up in the chat, which is the idea that you can take a listing, let's just say it's on Amazon, and Walmart's really concerned about pricing on Amazon. Fine. So let's just say you take a 6-pack of Huggies diapers. I have an almost 1-year-old, so I'm just going to use that example. 6-pack of diapers, it's using a UPC code. Amazon's typically matching based on UPC codes with pricing. So just what I would suggest to those in the audience, let's just say you're selling diapers on Walmart, maybe you'll have a 12-pack or a 36-pack that you're offering with a different UPC code that's adding like a different flavor to Walmart versus Amazon. And that's one way that you can sort of get around the price parity issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, the other things within our product is you can ensure you're matched to the correct listing. So within our product, because sometimes there might be slight differences in terms of the product you're selling on both stores. So there's the ability to match and kind of tweak that within our core product as well.
Elizabeth, anything to add to that? I know you're on mute. So.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, so my dog is sleeping on the floor next to me, and she has this awesome habit of, car door slams anywhere in the neighborhood, and she just has this like piercing bark. So I always I'm waiting for it. Let's put it that way.
Hashtag working from home and being on a webinar.
Yeah, For sure. One thing that I've seen some sellers do is bundles, right? So exclusives is a big deal. So like Walmart in particular, you'll see several exclusives within the Walmart universe, or a different, like even product lines that are exclusive to, say, Walmart. And then that kind of helps with that UPC or that pricing issue, right? Or keeping the houses separate and keeping both Amazon and Walmart happy.
Yes.
And then Gareth, from a CS perspective, like what are some best practices you've seen for those that you see expanding from Amazon to Walmart, or from a Shopify or BigCommerce to Walmart? Like that multi-channel expansion, are you seeing any merchants or brands doing interesting things in the space?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that. I think the key thing is, depending on, obviously if you're selling through your own web store like Shopify, you're going to own the customer relationship. So the customer comes to your store, buys directly from you. You have that information. You know what they bought off you. You know how much they sold. You have their email address. You have a lot more enriched customer data that you can use, right? As opposed to a marketplace like Amazon, where you're limited in terms of the information you're getting. So there's slight variations in terms of the customer support and the restrictions that you may have in certain marketplaces. But I think the real key thing when it comes to customer support, especially on marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart, they are really, they see customer support as such an integral part of what they do, right? We all know Amazon, we all know the famous, customer obsession, right? So when you're selling on Amazon, they see it as you're representing the Amazon brand. So if you're not providing that customer support that they would expect, then you're at risk of being suspended. If you're not going to meet the 24-hour SLA that they have in place, you're at risk of being punished. Similarly on Walmart, right? And it's interesting because from speaking to a couple of people in the industry and a couple of others, one of the concerns Walmart have a little bit opening up, right, in terms of third-party sellers, is that experience, right? Is that experience that a buyer will get from Walmart.com. So customer support is such a vital part of selling, right? You have to have a good customer experience. You have to respond within those SLAs. You have to give that good experience, because if you don't give that a good experience, it's reflected on Amazon and Walmart, and they're going to, they're going to suspend sellers. They're going to essentially punish sellers who don't provide that good key customer support experience. So yeah, it's really vital. Yeah,
for me, selling on Amazon, they've just created a very high benchmark, and we use that benchmark to help us sell everywhere else. So they're just keeping the standards high, and I think it's been helpful for us to improve our customer support and certainly time to resolution and time to first response.
Yeah, absolutely. And then and also having a consistency across your customer support. So you even as a seller, right, you want to have the consistency in terms of if you're supporting customers, people are buying off your Walmart's marketplace, be it Amazon, be it through your own store. They could be coming through your Facebook page. If you have an Instagram or Twitter handle, that customer queries can coming in there. So it's really key that you're able to support across those channels and have a consistent experience, right? So that if someone has bought something off on Amazon but has found you on Twitter and has tweeting the whole world saying, hey, this experience is crap, and so on and so forth, then you really want to be able to jump on that and handle that really, really well, right? And that's where our product eDex comes into play, because you can have customer support across those multi-channels and have them all in one place, which is really, really important.
All right, so we're at the 30-minute mark. There's a lot of questions that came in the chat. And I think we can start just going through like a lightning round. I don't think I can answer all of them, or we can. I'm just going to look at the first one that's up there. Maybe people can upvote ones that they are really more interested in hearing about. But the first one that I see on my screen is, what percentage of sellers are from China? How many sellers are American in Walmart? So I do know that if you look at the top sellers on Amazon today, the top 10, I believe there's about 60% of those are abroad companies, typically out of China, sometimes with a US presence, but they're mainly FBA. The difference is that Amazon's program with Plus is so nascent and so early that they can't leverage it yet. And so really it requires you to either have a 3PL or have your own fulfillment center, which, by the way, Skubana can help you with. But I think that creates a barrier of entry. Anyone have anything else to add to that?
It is not nearly as prevalent as it is on Amazon. So number of Chinese sellers, that's for sure. And that's part of that gating process too, right? So being able to be listed, in early days, I was looking at it going, this doesn't seem like much of a gate, but now that we're 2-3 years into the more open application, it has definitely been more US based.
Yeah, I mean, not much more to add, but yeah, I mean, obviously Walmart is very much more North America focused in terms of its history and where it came from. So, but yeah, I think as they gradually open up, that will would expect that to change.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of gating, are you talking about like getting into the Walmart marketplace?
Yes. So
yeah, can you share like your experience there, what you've seen, and how can people get in? Because there's certain people that were blocked from getting in the chat.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, it is a common occurrence. So like it's either it's very like yes, no problem, got in, or like constant problems, reapplied. So one of the things I do recommend if you're having issues with it is to engage with a software company or a partner that has a direct line of communication to the Walmart marketplace seller programs, so they can, in a sense, fast pass, but they also help you fill out that application. So if there's information that you're missing or they're just not getting, so like I have a client right now that I'm working through that, they're trying to list their products and they received the notification that they're selling essentially a prohibited product. They just get Walmart support just gives them this link to the help center and says, here you go. Sorry, guys. And they're like, well, which one of the 5 things on this page did I violate? How can I fix it? Also, to add salt to the wound, there are other competitors in the 3P marketplace selling the same type of product and a reseller selling their very product. And so it's obviously very frustrating. So I've actually done a couple of things. One is, resubmit the case brand new, try a different venue. Maybe you get a different human that's willing to look at it a little bit more. Add that context, show that link, and show that there's somebody else selling your stuff. Why are you prohibited? To find out, is it just that they've got a limited number of spots for that category or for whatever? Do they think your product's perishable and it's not? That kind of stuff. Making sure your application is clean, your categories are clean, and then again, using that partner. I hate to say that, but it's true.
And by the way, I don't know if Tinuiti offers this, but I know Skubana, we can help fast track it. There was a question as to why would Walmart do that? And it really just comes down to tofu, right? Top of the funnel is expanding. Everybody wants in now, especially as FBA was limited, and now people pivoted to FBM, and now they can do you can fulfill by yourself with Walmart as well, or with a 3PL. So I think it's pretty effective from Walmart's part, because they're like, hey, we're going to be super selective who we bring in. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, or who knows you specifically. And I just think it'll help them bring on the right clients. Not only they want to have 100,000 toilet paper rolls like Amazon does, and let everyone into the program.
Yeah. I think absolutely it. Like in terms of what we said earlier on, right? They're still selective of who they want there. So going with a partner, someone who can help you navigate that through is really, really important.
Yeah, and just know you're not alone. Everyone is very frustrated when they get back the single link to the Help Center article that goes, yeah, sorry, and then you're just kind of going, oh, okay.
Yeah, so some of the things that come up.
Uh-oh, I think we lost.
We lost Chad.
We did. So do we get to make up whatever we want as far as the webinar goes, or just start like answering random questions?
I was thinking that, Liz, but it's all
I'm lurking in the background.
Okay.
I was just saying, like, one of the things that are, that you would need to be fast tracked in the program would be like, how many SKUs do you have? What are your reviews on Amazon? How many reviews have you had in the past 30 days? The recency of those reviews. Revenue profile, I think, is important to them. What other channels you're selling on? Those are kind of things that they're going to ask you for as they filter that top of the funnel to bring you into the program. Any other things that you've seen them ask?
I mean, that's pretty much it. What's funny is, you mentioned the Amazon reviews, but you can't, import the Amazon reviews, but they totally use them. So I would think that's kind of an interesting interplay.
Yeah. I was just going to add. I think you list them all, but obviously, I think revenue in particular for Walmart is a key thing, right? They want, typically they would prefer sellers who kind of are selling already and have some sales, right? That's a key thing in terms of when they're onboarding someone onto their marketplace.
All right, let's go to these other questions that came in here. If you guys see ones that you think that are important and could really move the needle for those that are in attendance, please feel free to reach out.
I'd say maybe something about like assessing third-party partner costs, that kind of stuff. So, things to keep in mind, obviously, you're not paying those monthly seller fees. It's just the commission. You don't have to do advertising out of the gate. I'm supposed to say that because that's obviously what I do, but I do recommend honestly that somebody sell for 2 weeks to a month first before they start doing anything else. Make sure that they can actually fulfill and do all the things, but do the math. There are some calculators in terms of, whether or not you need a 3PL to be able to get that 2-day ship badge. And then do the math on your hours. How much time have you spent trying to work through the Walmart systems when you could have somebody that has, an established swim lane to do that for you?
And Elizabeth, while we were talking about it, I was thinking in my head, like Amazon, I know my category ACOS. Have you seen a big difference in the advertising cost of the sale across those two channels? Because obviously Walmart has less saturation.
So Amazon has the volume, Walmart has less saturation. What we've seen in terms of, and of course Amazon's ACOS, but they just added ROAS, and then Walmart's ROAS. So it's depending on, it's really category dependent. And it's really brand dependent too. So what we've noticed is bigger brands, name brand recognition, like you'd know, and if I could find it in your kitchen today, honestly have an easier time in terms of conversion and keeping that ACOS down versus say like a third party seller. Like I'm just being really honest, it is a little bit harder as a third party seller in advertising. And the other thing I've noticed too is price point. It is really important that if your price point is, if you're $5 and under, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot harder to hit that on Walmart than say, for Amazon, which is still even a little bit difficult at that low price point. But if you can if you're in that $25 AOV and higher, or you have an item that's a big, like an add-on or a basket builder that you can tag into a lot of different, if you're tag into anyone's normal routines kind of thing, you have a easier chance at a comparable ACOS.
Gary, anything to add to that?
No, I see some questions popping up about pricing. Obviously, people are asking quite a lot about pricing questions, and one of the questions that you hear, like, what happens if a product is at a lower price than on Amazon than it is on Walmart? Just to be clear, and a couple of questions were asking, do you have to sell on Amazon to sell on Walmart? That's not the case, right? Just to be clear, right? So you can never have sold on Amazon before and decide Walmart is for you. But there is a criteria there. They'll expect a certain revenue profile. They'll expect a certain review profile. So if you're just starting off, I would suggest Amazon is probably a good place to start off because it's a little bit easier to get on. It's a little easier to get started. Whereas Walmart, it's more for sellers who are established already and have a sales profile and looking to grow and expand. So I would say that's key. And then on prices, you can list products at different prices on different marketplaces. The key thing I was trying to speak about earlier is that each marketplace has its own, I suppose, rules or ecosystem around price, right? And that's where you have to be aware. So Walmart will have certain price guarantees, right, in terms of products that are being listed. They don't want you to list those products cheaper elsewhere. So that's a really important part of Walmart. Amazon, again, has the same price rules. So I'll give another plug for repricer.com because if you come there, you can manage your pricing all in one place in our product. So yeah, there's a lot of pricing questions and stuff.
Cool. And I am seeing a lot of Shopify brands and BigCommerce brands in the chat here, and Magento too. I want to highlight that. And a lot of them are just brands. And so what you're seeing that's happening, this dichotomy that's being formed, or this paradigm, is like on the marketplaces, people are largely searching generic branded terms. Right, so they go to the marketplace and 70% of the time they're searching like sheets versus a branded sheet company. Whereas on Instagram, you're building that rapport with the customer, you're building your brand up. They go and buy direct either from Instagram Shop or from your own website through Shopify or through any of the other integrated partners like BigCommerce and Magento. So I think that's just another little small interesting nugget that's happening. Whereas like if you're a bedding company, even if you put one SKU on Walmart to just dip your toes in the water and see if it's warm. I think it'd be really, really important and strategic because you can use different terminology. You don't have to lead with your brand, as Elizabeth spoke about. You can lead with bedding sheets, whether it's bamboo or whether it's eucalyptus or it's something else, right? You can create a different persona and go after that that ideal client profile on Walmart, which is very different from than someone who's maybe on Instagram or Facebook or even Amazon.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, Chad, actually. I was reading some reports on this actually about brands and trust in brands, and like that faith in brands is declining. So there's quite a lot of research and development out there on that. Really, it's becoming more about trust and price. So as you say, people are searching for a product, but they're not searching for a particular brand. And if they see a product and it has a good price, and the seller has a good rating, right, and it's trusted, then people will buy, right? And brand obviously is still important, so don't get me wrong, but there's certainly a bit of a kind of switch in that in terms of online in particular, but I think that's accelerating a little bit more and more, right? So
we saw COVID push that forward, right? So it was literally, do you have it? When can I have it? How much is it? End of story. Just, and depending on the category you're in, that was literally the story. Like, oh, you have these vitamins. Great. I don't care. Like, I just need all the vitamin C that you have. You have any kind of hand sanitizer alone, right? Like, if you look at, that's an amazing study in a category gone wild.
Yeah, we put some data on that actually from our own platform. It's interesting. We have probably about 8,000 sellers on our platform. And we look at data, we compare year on year, in terms of growth. And normally, on average, across all those sellers are growing at 10 to 15%, once in comparison to the previous year. When we looked at March, April, May, on average, they were up about 65% in growth. But you had some sellers who, so we had one seller who was probably doing about $1.5 million in January and February, and in March alone they did 20 million because they were selling hand sanitizers. It's just 15x, right, in overnight. And but to your point, right, COVID has really accelerated that. It's just do you have it? Is the price reasonable? And can you ship it and get it to me on time? And is it a good experience? As in, people knew shipments would be delayed, as in deliveries would be delayed. People accepted that. But were you communicating with me during that process? Were you informing, hey, it's going to be delayed, but you're going to get it delivered 7 days from now? Because if as a buyer, I think we all know this, right? If you buy something and you know it's going to be delivered and you're kept in touch in terms of what's going on, that's fine. But when someone kind of goes dark on you or doesn't respond to your queries, that's when you go, hey, you cancel the order, you want a refund, so on and so forth. So some really interesting data, right, in terms of the last 6 months and different categories. Like we saw, like some categories up 135%, and we're looking at different regions. So it's funny, like as kind of the crisis kind of went kind of east to west across the globe, you could see the online responding, right? So it kind of started off, you see Italy jumping, Spain, France, UK. And it came across to obviously the US and Canada. So it was really interesting to see that happen, right, as this whole thing played out. And they haven't dropped back down. That's a really interesting thing. It's gone up, and it's kept at that level, right? We haven't seen the tail off at all, really. So it's
destroying all year-over-year numbers and calculations. Like, so for everything we go year-over-year, we're up 150%. But I really don't think next year we're going to do that again. So it's been it's been hard in terms of isolating the noise and kind of flattening that out and say, like, if there wasn't, what can we expect next year?
Yeah, that COVID bump is real. And I think, at least for me, I have feelings of just feeling really blessed to be in the e-commerce space as dollars have been shifting from brick and mortar. It's unfortunate circumstances, but it's just, I'm grateful that we're able to be in this environment and helping merchants and brands succeed in this time. Any remaining comments, things you want to share with those that are joining today before we wrap up?
I recognize that Walmart doesn't have as many outlets for information as Amazon does today, and continue to set those expectations, but also continue to reach out. So I saw some really great questions and kind of back and forth in the chat alone. So please talk to each other, do those comparisons. Let's build that community, same way that Amazon has.
Yeah, I want to just double up on that. So we run a Slack group called Run D2C, and if people want to participate in it or share, we're all about building a community, especially right now where we need to rely on each other's information, help each other. You can contact myself, Chad at Skubana, or you can contact Gina, who's somewhere in here in the chat, to get you into the group and to be contributing and helping others and helping yourself at the same time. Gareth?
It's probably just to add to that as well, as I said, I think you mentioned earlier on, there's a big community around Amazon, and it's grown over the years. I think that's, we just need to leverage on that ourselves. And in Excel, it's similar. We kind of put together customer forums, so you bring some of our customers together so they can speak. And it's not just about our products; it's about general things that are going on in the e-commerce world, the sector, problems, and they get to kind of compare notes sometimes and kind of understand what kind of solutions you're coming up with certain problems. So again, yeah, I mean, by all means, even if our products aren't matched for you, if you drop a note to Gareth at excelco.com, I'll put you in touch with some of our guys and join those forums, because they can just help, right? Help you get through these different questions and challenges and so on and so forth.
And Elizabeth, how can people reach you, find out more about what you're up to, just jam with you?
Yeah, I'm pretty reachable. So obviously I'm on LinkedIn, but Twitter, I have my at EBKENDO handle. You can find me on there. Tinuiti is the name of the company that I work for, or the agency, and it is spelled with like continuity and ingenuity, so you can find us there. And they, believe me, they find me and forward me anything that comes in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm grateful for Gina for putting this all together for all of us, and thank you for your contribution. Have a great day. Happy selling.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.